soldier from Lincoln County. I probably could be one of your ancestors. I'm not much on public speaking to folks, but I'm here tonight to share my story with you. When the war broke out, it was planting time. While the boys raced each other to sign up, I planted corn in curving rows on the hills by the creek. My wife Amy grew tomatoes, okra, and beans in the garden beside our house. I watched all summer as she worked around her growing belly to weed and water them. I was in no hurry to leave. I was happy where I was. They said the Yankees were coming to take everything we had. The Yankees were coming to free the slaves and let them run us into the ground. The Yankees were coming in thousands upon that thousands to tell us the right way to live. But I saw where my neighbors were going off to Virginia. My brothers Samuel and Bucknell went with them, leaving their farms and their families for me to look after. In October, when the crops were laid up and we had killed a hog, my wife Amy had a baby girl. Within 6 weeks, we came to believe that she couldn't see. My brothers' wives came to help Amy, and I walked all over the farm, every bit of it, every day. I thought about how she would never see any of it. She'd never see the sun coming up as we milked the cows. She'd never see our faces, and I thought she would be crushed by the pain of it. The day after Christmas, I signed up. I promised God that I'd be a good soldier, that I'd do whatever needed doing. If I got home, my daughter would be able to see my face. If I died, then I would be exchanging my life for her sight. Fair enough, I thought. I marched until I didn't have time to think about what the orders meant. I learned to load and fire 3 times in a little over a minute. I learned to eat whatever insects were in the bread, whether or not they were still moving. Like everyone else, I was sick. We would fall out of line, whatever cover we could find, but we couldn't. Sometimes we didn't even look for cover. I watched men die of the measles, cholera, diphtheria, especially the backwood boys who hadn't been around much diseases as kids. I watched the colonel write letters home to tell their families that their son, their husband, their brother wasn't coming home. Mostly, I waited. I waited for meal times. I waited for mail from home. I waited for battle. It seemed like the Army was a whole lot of hurry up and wait. When the cold weather broke, we found battles enough. We'd been following Stonewall Jackson around the Shenandoah Valley for weeks. We got to Staunton in early May, where we pushed the Yankees back to New Market. It was the start of what they call Jackson's Valley Campaign. It seems like we were always marching somewhere, and I guess we got a reputation for showing up where we weren't expected. We kept pushing north, skirmishing with the Yankees along the way. I guess that drew some attention because they sent Fremont from one direction and McDowell from the other to trap us near Harper's Ferry. But old Blue Light hurried us south and we got away. Like I said, we did a lot of marching and a little bit of fighting, but we were winning. After the war, somebody tallied up the numbers. In 48 days of marching that spring, we had covered 676 miles and fought 5 battles. We had won every one of them. But with every step, a voice inside my head taunted me. My baby girl would never see the mist hanging in the Shenandoah Valley. She'd never see how blue General Jackson's eyes were, like the whole of the summer sky in them. She'd always be in the darkness, and I prayed that she wouldn't be afraid. I prayed she'd be brave because I was scared all of the time. I was afraid that I'd disgrace my family by being a coward when we got into a real battle. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to kill another man. It ain't the same as killing an animal that will leave food on the table. I was afraid that I'd let down the men that were my friends, especially Henry Swindell. He was from a little place in eastern North Carolina where the land was sandy and they grew tobacco. We had become good friends, even though to everybody else it looked like we had nothing in common. Before long, this man who was so different from me was closer to me than my own brothers.